For a long time, there was only silence over Vaughnus 9, a silence so deep it made the wind seem afraid to move. The planet's twin moons hung above the black mountains, their reflections glimmering across crystal blue seas. It was a world of beauty, precision, and order. The kind of place where nothing unexpected ever happened. Until today. At first, the tremors were faint, small ripples across the ionosphere. The alien weather towers registered something unusual, but the readings made no sense. It wasn't a storm. It wasn't solar interference. It was something else. Then the sky split open. A blinding white scar tore across the upper atmosphere, followed by hundreds of metallic shadows cutting through the clouds. Ships, sleek, angular, and unlike anything the Vaughnian people had ever seen. The ships moved with terrifying precision. No formation errors. No drift. Just cold geometry and purpose. From the streets of the alien capital, millions looked up. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide with a fear they didn't understand. The older ones remembered the stories, rumors about the beings from the blue planet near Sol. The ones who lived on the death world called Earth. But those were just myths, right? Inside the command citadel, Commander Vika stood frozen in front of a holographic display. His gill-like vents pulsed erratically as data poured in, ship after ship, each marked with an unknown human symbol. "Are we under attack?" shouted an officer. Vika didn't answer. He already knew. The humans had come back. It had been a month since the Vaughnian fleet had destroyed a small human colony near the Orion Belt, a mining outpost barely worth noticing. The attack had been swift. The Alien Council had called it a necessary preemptive strike. Humans, they said, were unpredictable, violent, and far too dangerous to be left alone in neighboring space. They thought that destroying one outpost would send a message. They didn't realize it had sent a declaration of war. Now, above the atmosphere, the human fleet had arrived. And leading them was a monster of steel and thunder, the HMS Titanfall. A ship so large it looked like a drifting continent. Its underbelly glowed with a single white ring of energy, humming with restrained fury. "Commander," an aide said, voice shaking, "our comms are blocked. All channels are jammed." Vika slammed his clawed hand against the console. "Then unblock them. Send a surrender code, a signal, anything." But no signals escaped. The humans had silenced the planet completely. Not even distress calls could get through. A young technician turned pale. "Sir, the orbiting defense grid just went offline." Vika froze. "Offline? How?" A flicker of light answered for him. One of the orbital satellites exploded silently in the sky. Then another. Then 10 more. A chain of brilliant, soundless bursts lit up the horizon like a line of dying stars. Every explosion reflected across the sea below. It looked beautiful. Terrifyingly beautiful. From orbit, inside the Titanfall's bridge, Admiral Marcus Hale watched through the panoramic viewport. His face was unreadable, eyes locked on the distant planet below. Behind him, a quiet hum filled the room, the hum of a weapon charging. The ship's AI reported calmly. "Railgun capacitors at 97%, Admiral." "Hold fire," Hale said. He stood there, his reflection flickering in the glass. He wasn't a monster. He hadn't wanted this war. But he remembered the transmission, the Vaughnian broadcast after they wiped out the human colony. He could still hear the alien voice. "Human presence terminated. The Deathworlders will trouble us no more." They had laughed. And that laughter had echoed through every human broadcast channel on Earth for 3 days. Now, Hale would make sure that laughter never happened again. "Open communications," he said. "Sir, they're trying to reach us," the comm officer replied. "Shall we respond?" Hale nodded once. "Patch me through." Down on the surface, Commander Vika's display flickered to life. A human face appeared, pale, expressionless, eyes like ice. Vika's voice trembled. We were mistaken," he stammered. "It was a misunderstanding. We didn't mean." The human didn't blink. Didn't flinch. His voice came through clear, steady, and final. "You started this." And then the transmission cut off. Above the planet, the Titanfall's railgun array shifted into position. It was not a cannon in the traditional sense, it was a long spine of magnetic coils, stretching the length of the ship, glowing brighter and brighter. Each coil charged sequentially, building power until the entire hull vibrated like a drum of thunder. A single round, an iron slug no larger than a human forearm, was loaded into the magnetic rails. It was enough to destroy a mountain. Inside the Titanfall, everything went quiet. The crew watched in silence. No cheers. No battle cries. Only duty. Fire, Hale ordered. The shot was invisible for a fraction of a second. Then the atmosphere caught fire. From the surface, it looked like the heavens themselves were tearing apart. A line of white light sliced across the sky, followed by a storm of molten air. Every sensor overloaded. Every shield collapsed. The alien capital vaporized before sound could even reach it. Those far from the blast saw a second sunrise, a light so bright it turned shadows into ghosts. The shockwave rolled across the planet, flattening everything in its path. Then, at last, silence returned to Vonis 9. But it was not the same silence as before. This one was final. Long before the sky burned, Vonis 9 had known only peace. The Vornians were a proud and ancient civilization, builders, artists, and scientists. They believed themselves wise enough to understand the universe. But the universe, as they would learn, had other plans. It began with a whisper, strange radio waves detected from the edge of known space. The signals were crude, repetitive, and filled with strange rhythmic patterns. They called it noise from the blue. At first, their scientists thought it was natural interference. But when they decoded fragments, words began to emerge, human words. Mission log, oxygen stable, mining sector 12. For months, the Vornian Science Council listened, fascinated and frightened. Whoever these beings were, they weren't gods or machines. They were alive. And their world, Earth, was beyond imagining. The data revealed terrifying details: gravity stronger than most planets, a climate of extremes, beasts that hunted in packs, diseases that killed by the billions. The Council gave Earth a name in their tongue, Ka, which meant Deathworld. How can anything survive there? Asked scientist Raltin, studying the transmissions. Maybe they don't survive, replied another. Maybe they fight death and win. That thought unsettled them. Weeks later, a probe captured visual confirmation: human ships mining near the Orion Belt. Small, fragile-looking things made of metal and light. Yet the readings showed dense hulls, radiation shielding, and fusion reactors more advanced than anything the Vornians had seen. They are expanding, said General Cora, head of planetary defense. Soon they'll reach our borders. The council chamber erupted in debate. They might be explorers, said the elder speaker Yura. We could welcome them, learn from them. Learn from them. Cora barked. From creatures that live on a planet where even the air kills? You don't welcome predators, you stop them before they notice you. Fear spread through the chamber. The vote was close, 6 for peace, 7 for preemptive action. The decision: attack first. The Vornian fleet was dispatched within the week. Sleek warships painted in obsidian tones cut across the void, heading for the human outpost codenamed Orion 7. It was a small colony, mostly miners and engineers. The humans never saw them coming. From orbit, the Vornians launched plasma bombardments, vaporizing the colony's reactors. Every human signal went dark. The entire attack lasted 9 minutes. When it was over, Cora stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the burning surface below. It's done, she said flatly. The Deathworlders will not rise. Her crew cheered. They called it the Day of Safety. They broadcast a message across their networks, a public declaration of victory. The recording showed alien soldiers saluting beneath banners of light. Their anthem played proudly as Cora announced. Human presence terminated. The Deathworlders will trouble us no more. That transmission echoed across their colonies like music. But the humans heard it too. At first, no one on Vonis 9 noticed. There was no reply, no retaliation, no signal. The silence was comforting, proof, they believed, that their preemptive strike had worked. Then the probes began to vanish. One by one, the unmanned Vornian satellites near the border stopped transmitting. The last image received from one of them showed a dark object, vast, metallic, moving faster than anything they'd recorded before. When scientists enhanced the image, they saw a human ship, marked with a white emblem. TDF, Terran Defense Fleet. No one knew what it meant. But deep down, General Cora understood. "They know," she whispered. Panic spread through the Vornian systems. The High Council ordered new defenses. Massive ion shields were built around cities. Planetary cannons were raised toward the stars. Cora visited the construction sites herself. The workers called her a hero, the one who saved Vornis from the monsters beyond the stars. But each night, when she looked up at the sky, she saw the faint gleam of distant stars and wondered which of them hid her mistake. Because in her heart, she knew it wasn't over. The humans had seen the destruction. They had lost people, families, children, lives. And Deathworlders don't forget. 1 month later, the first human drone appeared in orbit above an uninhabited Vornian moon. It didn't attack. It didn't broadcast. It simply watched. Cora ordered it destroyed immediately. The wreckage fell into the moon's dust like silent ashes. But more came. Then more. Until hundreds of drones filled the system, each one mapping, scanning, observing. The Vornians tried to jam them. The drones adapted. They tried to shoot them down. The drones multiplied. They sent warnings into the void. The void never answered. Until one day, every Vornian sensor went dark. The stars themselves seemed to blink out. General Cora stood before the council, trembling. "We have angered something we don't understand," she said. But the others only laughed. "They are animals from a cursed planet," the speaker said. "If they come, we will destroy them again." Cora didn't laugh. She only whispered, "You don't destroy predators. You invite them." 3 weeks later, at 0700 planetary time, the long-range radar picked up a signal, massive, dense, unlike anything recorded before. Then came hundreds more. A fleet. Each one bearing a mark burned into its hull, TDF. The humans were coming. And this time, they weren't sending miners or explorers. They were sending revenge. Deep beneath the frozen peaks of Mount Erebus, inside the Terran Defense Council headquarters, the air was heavy with silence. Dozens of military officers and scientists sat in a dark chamber, eyes fixed on the holographic screen hovering above the table. The video playing was short, barely 30 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. An alien commander, tall and insectoid, stood in front of a burning human colony. Behind her, bodies lay in the dirt, smoke rising from shattered habitats. Her voice came through clearly. "Human presence terminated. The Deathworlders will trouble us no more." The transmission ended with static. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Admiral Marcus Hale stood from his seat, his expression calm, but his eyes were cold steel. He pressed his hand against the table scanner. "AI, confirm authenticity." The room's voice replied, "Confirmed. Signal origin, Vornis 9 system. Attack timestamp, 28 days ago." 28 days. 28 days since 3,000 human colonists, men, women, and children, had vanished without a trace. A low hum filled the room as tension thickened. Finally, Hale broke the silence. "Open record log," he said. "Admiral Marcus Hale, Terran Defense Command, Orion Sector." He looked around the table, his voice deep and slow. "They thought we wouldn't respond. They thought fear would keep us silent." He turned toward the holographic star map. The Vornis system glowed red, marked as hostile. But Earth doesn't forget her dead. Across the planet, humanity was already changing. Factories once used for construction now roared with the sound of war. Massive orbital shipyards above Luna burned day and night, assembling warships larger than any before. The media tried to stay calm, but the people knew what was coming. Every family had lost someone in the colonies. Every city remembered the footage of the alien broadcast, the laughter, the arrogance. Even the children whispered a new word at night. Vornis. To them, it wasn't just a planet. It was a warning. At the United Space Command Center in Geneva, the Council of Nations gathered for an emergency session. Representatives from across Earth, America, China, India, the African Alliance, and Europa, sat beneath a single flag, Humanity United. Admiral Hale stood before them, a faint scar running along his temple from an old war. He projected the alien message again. Many couldn't watch, others clenched their fists. They made their choice, Hale said. Now we make ours. A senator from the Europa colony stood up. Admiral, if we strike first, the galaxy will see us as monsters. Hale didn't even blink. They already called us monsters. Let's show them why. The chamber erupted in voices, arguments, fear, rage, but the decision was inevitable. Humanity was not built for submission. By unanimous vote, the Ars Protocol was activated. Ars Protocol. The word spread across every human outpost like wildfire. It meant total mobilization. Every fleet recalled. Every engineer drafted. Every weapon tested, upgraded, or rebuilt. For the first time in history, the fractured nations of Earth moved as one. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting for vengeance. Factories in the Siberian tundra forged the first orbital rail slugs, metal rods the size of trees, designed to be fired from orbit. On Mars, pilots trained in zero-gravity combat, perfecting new maneuvers to match alien agility. And from the deep seas of Earth, submarines surfaced carrying payloads that glowed with nuclear fire. Every human world began to whisper the same phrase. Remember Orion 7. 3 weeks later, inside the HMS Titan IV, Admiral Hale stood before 1,000 officers. The hangar was silent except for the sound of boots on steel. Some of you were born after the first contact, Hale began. You grew up hearing that humans were dangerous. That we were too wild to join the stars. He paused, scanning the crowd. They were right. We are dangerous. But only when someone pushes us too far. He turned to the massive viewport showing the stars. Those aliens thought killing civilians would scare us. Instead, they woke something they'll wish had stayed asleep. He raised his hand, signaling the launch code. Set course for Vonis 9. The crew responded as one. Aye, Admiral. As the Titanfall left orbit, its engines burned brighter than the dawn. Behind it, thousands of ships followed, destroyers, cruisers, carriers, all bearing the insignia TDF, Terran Defense Fleet. Across the solar system, civilians watched from their screens as the armada vanished into the black, faster than light. Parents held their children a little tighter. Soldiers saluted the stars. And somewhere, deep in the silence between worlds, humanity's vengeance began to move. Meanwhile, far from Earth, on a Vornian observation post, a lone alien technician stared at his radar. A faint signal appeared, one blip, then two, then hundreds. He frowned, recalibrating the sensors. That can't be right. The radar light turned red. The signals multiplied, flooding the screen. He leaned closer, his throat tightening. That's impossible. His supervisor walked in, irritated. What is it this time? The technician pointed to the display. Ships. So many ships. The supervisor sneered. Probably a glitch. No one travels in numbers that large. The technician didn't answer. His eyes widened as the symbols appeared beside each contact. TDF, human. By the time the supervisor turned to look, the screen was full of red warnings. The technician whispered the words that would echo across every Vornian system in terror. They're coming. The fleet moved like a shadow through the stars. Thousands of human ships, their hulls black and silent, glided between the constellations without broadcasting a single signal. To the untrained eye, they looked like darkness itself, swallowing light as they passed. Every vessel bore the mark of Earth's fury, etched words on the hulls, remember Orion 7. Inside the command ship HMS Titan IV, Admiral Marcus Hale stood before the viewport. The reflection of the fleet shimmered across his eyes like a swarm of ghosts. Behind him, Captain Alara Voss read off the latest reports. All ships in formation, sir. Phase drive stable. Estimated arrival in Vornis system, 72 hours. 72 hours, Hale murmured. That's all the time they have left. Across the galaxy, word of the approaching human armada began to spread. Merchant vessels vanished. Outposts stopped responding. In the Vornian colonies, fear replaced arrogance. The alien media no longer boasted about their victory over the Deathworlders. Now, they only asked one question. What happens when death itself comes to collect? The High Council tried to calm the public. They spoke of strength, of unity, of how their fleets would defend them. But even they could feel it, the cold, heavy weight of dread pressing down from the stars. Meanwhile, the humans continued forward, relentless, wordless, unstoppable. In the Titanfall's lower decks, rows of soldiers sat in silence, their armor gleaming beneath the dim lights. Each had a small patch on their shoulder, a name of someone lost on Orion 7. A father, a sister, a child. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Every human aboard that fleet carried the same purpose, to end the war before it began again. In the hangar bay, engineers loaded the first rail slugs into containment pods. Each one was forged from a single piece of tungsten, shaped and polished like a spear. One slug could level a city. 100 could erase a civilization. Humanity's answer, one engineer whispered, tracing the words engraved on the side of the projectile. We endure. We retaliate. On the bridge, Captain Voss glanced at her admiral. Sir, the Vornis broadcasts, they've sent messages of surrender. Hale didn't move. Too late. Some are offering reparations, alliances. Too late, he said again, his tone like iron. They had their chance before the bodies cooled. Voss hesitated. If we go through with this, Admiral, history will remember us as monsters. Hale finally turned to her. His eyes were calm. History will remember us as survivors. The fleet exited FTL near the Zentragate, a wormhole hub controlled by neutral traders. When the humans arrived, every station went dark. Traffic ceased. No ship dared move. A single transmission was sent from the Titanfall to the control tower. Clear the lane. The controller didn't hesitate. Confirmed, Terran fleet. Path is yours. It was the first and only time in history that the galaxy gave way without resistance. The humans passed through the gate, one after another, giants of war sliding through the void like silent predators. No music. No speeches. No propaganda. Just the hum of reactors and the cold gleam of vengeance. Back on Vornis 9, Commander Vika stared at the incoming sensor data. The fleet had entered their system's outer rim. His subordinates were panicking. Commander, our scouts report over 400 vessels, human class. Another shouted, we've lost contact with our defense stations. Vika gripped the edge of his console, trying to steady himself. How long until they reach orbit? 40 hours, sir. He closed his eyes. 40 hours until judgment. The council demanded an explanation. Why are they coming here? One shouted. They're animals. They can't possibly want revenge after a month, another cried. Vika's voice broke through the chaos. You don't understand them. You think they act like us, but they don't. They come from a world that tries to kill them every second of every day. You think they fear war? They were born in it. The room fell silent. Vika continued, they're not attacking for territory. They're coming to remind us what happens when you wake something that should have stayed sleeping. In orbit, the Titanfall prepared for final approach. On every ship, lights dimmed to red. Pilots sealed their helmets. Weapons hummed to life. The Terran Defense Fleet entered formation, spreading across the system like a vast mechanical storm. Hale's voice echoed through every ship. This is Admiral Hale to all units. Our ancestors once looked up at the stars and dreamed of peace. That dream died on Orion 7. From this moment, we are not explorers. We are not diplomats. We are the consequence. 1,000 captains responded in unison. For Orion 7. As the fleet closed in, one alien officer aboard the Vornian flagship whispered to herself, they're coming in silence, no lights, no signals, why aren't they saying anything? Her superior answered, voice shaking, because when death comes, it doesn't need to announce itself. The stars outside flickered, as if even light itself dared not stand in the human's way. The moment the human fleet entered Vornian orbit, the night sky turned to fire. To the people on the surface, it began like a second dawn, dozens of bright streaks slashing through the clouds, glowing red against the horizon. Children pointed at the strange lights. Parents pulled them indoors. Soldiers ran to their posts. But no one could truly prepare for what followed. On the bridge of the HMS Titanfall, Admiral Marcus Hale watched the holographic map bloom with targets. Red dots, each one a Vornian city, military base, or orbital defense grid. "Begin Phase 1, he said quietly. Across the fleet, hundreds of human warships powered up their main batteries. The silence of space was broken only by the deep hum of energy building inside their cores. "Target lock confirmed," reported Captain Voss. Hale nodded once. "Fire." The first volley came like a thunderclap no one could hear, rail slugs, kinetic missiles, and plasma lances streaking downward through the atmosphere. From orbit, the sight was breathtaking. From the ground, it was the end of the world. Inside the alien capital, Commander Vika stood in his command center, staring at the feed from orbital sensors. "Shields at 73%, an officer shouted. "Reroute power from the city grid." Vika ordered. "Keep those barriers up." He looked up through the glass ceiling just in time to see a line of white light tear across the sky, one of the Titanfall's railgun slugs. The round hit the mountains beyond the city. There was no explosion, no fireball, just a blinding flash, followed by silence. Then, a heartbeat later, the shockwave arrived. The entire mountain range vanished. The blast flattened forests, cities, and outposts hundreds of kilometers away. The shockwave raced across the landscape faster than sound, ripping through everything in its path. The shield generators flickered. One by one, they failed. "Commander, the western grid is down. Evacuate the civilians to the underground sectors." Vika yelled. "Move." But deep inside, he knew there would be no safe place left on Vornis 9. High above, the Titanfall drifted through the chaos, surrounded by smaller escort ships. The humans didn't cheer. They didn't gloat. They worked. Efficient. Silent. Determined. Each railgun slug fired was recorded, calculated, and adjusted for maximum precision. There was no randomness, only purpose. "Sector 7 cleared," a tactical officer reported. "Proceed to 8, Hale replied. Another round fired. Another city vanished. In the alien council chamber, the High Lord screamed for a ceasefire. "Send them a message," cried one. "Tell them we surrender," shouted another. But the communication arrays were gone, burned out, jammed, or shattered in the first wave. The humans had silenced the planet completely. One terrified aide ran to the council window and looked out. The once vibrant capital was now a field of fire and molten glass. He whispered, "This can't be war. This is extermination." Meanwhile, in orbit, Captain Voss stared at the devastation below. She hesitated before speaking. "Admiral, there are billions down there. Civilians, not soldiers. Are we truly going to erase them all?" Hale didn't answer right away. His eyes were fixed on the burning planet beneath them. Finally, he said, "You remember Orion 7? "Yes, sir." "They didn't spare ours." Voss said nothing more. She simply turned away, her face pale, her hands trembling. Hale, though, felt no joy in this vengeance. Only a deep, endless ache. He pressed a button on the console. "Prepare the main cannon. One shot. Let this be the last." The Titanfall's railgun array extended, its coils glowing with white energy. The weapon hummed, brighter and brighter, until the hull itself began to vibrate. Crew members covered their eyes as the magnetic field reached full charge. "Railgun ready," reported the gunnery officer. Hale's voice was soft but firm. "Fire." The slug left the barrel at nearly 1% the speed of light. It entered the atmosphere like a meteor. The friction ignited it instantly, turning the projectile into a white-hot spear. It struck the surface in the heart of the capital, and for a brief second everything froze. Then came the light. It wasn't an explosion, it was annihilation. A wave of pure energy flattened everything for miles. Buildings vaporized. Oceans boiled. The crust itself cracked open. From orbit, it looked like a sunrise blooming across the planet's night side. Then darkness returned. Vika survived only long enough to see the horizon burning. His final thoughts were not of victory or regret, but of understanding. He whispered, "We thought they were monsters. But they are just what the universe made them to be. And then Vornis 9 went silent. Hours later, the Titanfall drifted among the ashes. Scanners confirmed no remaining resistance, no functioning cities, no signals. Captain Voss looked at the readings. It's over. Hale stared at the planet, now a smoldering sphere of glass and fire. No, he said quietly. It's never over. Not for us. He turned to the comms officer. Send one transmission to all frequencies. The officer nodded. Message, sir. Hale's voice was cold and final. You started this. We ended it. The message echoed through space, reaching every listening outpost across the galaxy. And when alien worlds heard it, they knew one truth above all others. Never awaken the Deathworlders. The planet Vornis 9 was gone. Its once blue seas had turned to black glass. No voices came from its surface anymore, only radiation and silence. But in the endless dark above, among the drifting wreckage of destroyed ships, one faint signal still pulsed. Beep, beep, beep. It was weak, barely a whisper in the static, but it carried across space, searching for anyone who would listen. Inside the control deck of the HMS Titanfall, communication officers worked quietly, cleaning up the aftermath. Data logs, casualty lists, railgun performance reports, cold numbers that replaced faces and memories. Then, one operator looked up. Admiral Hale, sir, we're receiving something. Hale didn't move from his seat. From where? Origin. Vornis 9. The surface. Everyone turned. That shouldn't have been possible. The surface was gone. Put it through, Hale ordered. The signal crackled, filled with static, until a broken voice emerged, weak, trembling, alien. This is Commander Vika, to any sentient who can hear me. Vornis 9 is lost. The humans, they came back. We attacked them first. We thought they were weak. Static. We were wrong. They fought like a world that refused to die. Like predators from a nightmare. Another pause, then. To those who can hear this, if humanity comes for you, don't fight them. Don't provoke them. They are not conquerors. They are survivors. And when survivors fight, there is nothing left standing. The transmission ended with a long, empty tone. The crew of the Titanfall sat in silence. No one spoke. Even Hale said nothing for a long while. Finally, Captain Voss broke the quiet. He's right, you know. We didn't fight like soldiers, we fought like something else. Hale looked at her. What would you call it? She hesitated. Extinction. Meanwhile, deep in the outer systems, the Vornian distress signal reached another world, a trading hub known as Corthan Station. There, dozens of species listened in horror as Vika's final message repeated on every open frequency. A merchant captain whispered, they wiped out an entire planet, over one outpost. A grizzled miner answered, that's what humans do when they're pushed. The legends were true. Within hours, panic spread through the station. Trade with humans stopped overnight. Embassies sealed their doors. Whole fleets changed their patrol routes just to avoid Terran space. Fear had a new name, Deathworlder. Back aboard the Titanfall, Hale stood before the observation window. Below him, Vornis 9 smoldered like an ember in the void. Status of evacuation on the colony ships, he asked quietly. All survivors from Orion 7 have been safely transferred, Voss replied. They are heading home. Good. There was relief in his tone, but also something else. Weariness. Guilt. He knew the faces of every human killed in the original Vornian attack. He'd memorized their names. He'd promised vengeance. And he had delivered it, completely. But vengeance always left a shadow. Later that night, Hale walked through the silent corridors of the ship. He passed soldiers asleep at their posts, engineers staring blankly at screens, medics tending to the wounded who hadn't even fought, they'd just watched. He stopped in front of the viewport again. The stars stretched forever, cold and distant. He whispered to himself, we were supposed to make the galaxy safer, not quieter. Behind him, the ship's AI spoke softly. Admiral Hale, a reply has arrived. Hale frowned. From who? Unknown source. But it's human. Static filled the room. Then a woman's voice, tired, broken, but human. This is Captain Rena Solars, from the Terran Science Fleet Dawn. We received your broadcast, Admiral. We've been monitoring the outer colonies. The other species are panicking. They think we're monsters. Hale didn't respond immediately. And are we? We did what we had to. They attacked first. Hale sighed. So did we, once. On Earth. 1,000 times over. Orders, sir. He looked down at Vornis 9-1 last time. End the railgun protocol. No more exterminations. From this point on, defense only. Understood. Send this to all Terran fleets. We have shown our strength. Now we must show control. The AI paused before replying. Message sent. But Admiral, do you think they'll ever forgive us? Hale stared at the dying light of Vornis 9. No, he said softly. They'll never forgive us. But they'll never attack us again either. He turned away and walked toward the command deck. Behind him, the dead world continued to burn, its ashes scattering into the void, carried by silent winds no one could see. Across the galaxy, the story spread. Alien children whispered it before bed. Fleet commanders repeated it in hushed tones during briefings. And on distant moons, where humans mined in silence, they sometimes looked up at the stars, knowing the universe would never see them as explorers again. They were deathworlders. They didn't seek war. But when war came to them, they made sure it would never come twice. For months after the destruction of Vornis 9, the galaxy held its breath. No one dared to speak the name humanity aloud. Every broadcast, every diplomatic channel, every military council whispered the same 3 words. They ended everything. On the icy world of Relos Prime, the Galactic Union convened an emergency summit. Representatives from 57 species gathered beneath the glowing domes of the Senate Hall, creatures with fur, scales, feathers, and steel. All of them looked toward the massive central display showing the shattered image of Vornis 9. The once beautiful world now spun as a lifeless orb, half melted, half cracked. Ambassador Koratiach of the Relos slammed his clawed hand onto the table. This is not war, it's obliteration. They turned an entire planet into glass. A reptilian delegate hissed in agreement. And for what? 1 attack, 1 outpost destroyed? The humans answer with extinction. But an older being, a crystalline creature from the echelon worlds, spoke in a slow, resonant tone. The humans warned them. The Vornians struck first. The punishment was terrible, yes, but justified. The chamber erupted with shouts. Some demanded sanctions, others called for unity against the Deathworlders. Finally, the High Speaker silenced them with a pulse of light. The question is simple, she said. Do we fight them, or do we stay silent and hope they never look our way again? No one answered. Meanwhile, in the dark reaches of space, human trade convoys moved quietly between colonies. No pirate raids. No ambushes. No interference. The galaxy had learned fear. But fear never lasts forever. It festers, and then it evolves. Aboard a secret alien station orbiting the gas giant Isran, several races gathered in shadows. The meeting was unofficial, illegal, and desperate. Commander Sathkel of the Vornian remnants stood at the head of the table, one of the few survivors of his burned world. His scales were dull, his eyes cold with rage. You've all heard what they did to my home. They say it was justice. I call it genocide. Around him, other species shifted uncomfortably. The insectoid T-Krill clicked her mandibles. Even if we unite, how do we fight them? Their weapons burn mountains. Their ships bleed metal and light, Sathkel interrupted. Yes, I've seen them. But every weapon has limits. He activated a hologram of a human railgun slug, rotating slowly above the table. This thing moves at near light speed. But the energy it takes to fire one shot could power a city for a year. They can't fire forever. The room grew quiet. I'm not asking you to destroy them, Sathkel continued. I'm asking you to contain them. Watch them. Learn from them. before they decide someone else needs to be erased. The insectoid commander leaned forward. And if they find out about this alliance? Sathkel's voice was low and bitter. Then we'll all share my planet's fate. Back in Terran space, rumors began to circulate among human colonies. Cargo captains whispered that alien probes were appearing near jump gates. Explorers found strange debris, listening devices, tracking beacons, fragments of stealth drones. Humanity had become the most feared power in the stars, and the most watched. Inside the Terran Command Center, Admiral Hale reviewed one of the intercepted probes. It carried alien symbols burned into the hull. He ran his fingers over the metal and frowned. Captain Voss entered the room quietly. Another one. Third this week, Hale replied. Different make, same message, they're afraid of us. Voss sighed. Afraid, or preparing? Hale didn't answer. He just stared at the stars beyond the viewport. For the first time since Vornis 9, he felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel before. Not pride. Not anger. Paranoia. Weeks later, a new signal spread through the outer colonies, an encrypted broadcast, not human in origin. It carried one simple call. The Deathworlders will strike again. Unite before they do. Within days, the broadcast reached hundreds of systems. Alien fleets began quiet mobilizations. Secret weapons programs accelerated. The galaxy was preparing, not for trade, not for peace, but for survival. In the shadows of a derelict mining moon, Sathkel met with his new allies, commanders from 3 different races. He projected an image of Earth above the table. Blue. Beautiful. Vulnerable. They call it their home, he said. We'll call it our warning. The moment they raise another weapon, we'll end the Deathworlders before they end us. But deep inside, even Sathkel felt doubt. Because somewhere in his nightmares, he still saw the light, the white flash that had consumed his planet. He remembered the human message that burned into his mind. You started this. Back on the Titan IV, Admiral Hale received word of strange fleet movements in neutral space. Alien armadas regrouping near Isran, reported Voss. We think they're building something. Hale nodded slowly. Let them build. Let them think they're ready. He turned toward the window again, the same cold, endless stars staring back. They still don't understand, he murmured. We never wanted conquest. We only wanted to be left alone. He clenched his fist. But if they come for us again, we'll finish what they start. And across the stars, whispers grew louder. The Deathworlders had awoken once. If they ever did again, the galaxy knew it might not survive the second time. The stars looked peaceful that night. But Admiral Marcus Hale knew better. Peace, in the galaxy, was always just the quiet before another storm. The reports were piling up, alien fleets moving in secret, weapons testing on barren moons, encrypted signals bouncing between systems humans were not supposed to be watching. Captain Voss stood beside him, hands clasped behind her back. They're preparing for something, she said quietly. Hale nodded. And they think we don't see it. The HMS Titanfall drifted silently above a gas giant, its hull hidden by electromagnetic interference. It was watching, waiting, just as the rest of humanity's defense fleet was. Let them come, Hale murmured. They've already forgotten Vornis 9. On the other side of the galaxy, deep within the Isran coalition, alien leaders met in absolute secrecy. Commander Sathkel, the scarred Vornian survivor, stood before a massive holographic table glowing with red markers, human colonies, trade routes, and fleet positions. We strike once, he declared. Swift and clean. Take out their orbital weapons, their shipyards, their communication networks. Force them to the table before they can bring the railgun online again. A cold silence filled the chamber. The insectoid warlord T-Krill clicked her mandibles anxiously. You are certain they will hesitate? These Deathworlders, they do not hesitate. They will, Sathkel hissed. Because this time, we strike first, and we strike home. The hologram shifted to show a blue world with white clouds, Earth. Every species present shuddered. The plan was madness. But it was the only plan that gave them hope. 3 weeks later, the void above Earth's orbit split open. Without warning, hundreds of alien ships emerged from hyperspace, Stealth fields collapsing, weapon ports glowing like angry stars. The alarm sounded across every Terran station. Multiple contacts, unidentified signatures, shouted the comms officer on Titanfall. Origin. Hale barked. Issaran Coalition. The invasion had begun. Missiles streaked through the upper atmosphere. Defense satellites exploded one by one, shattered like toys under alien plasma. The sky over Earth burned as fleets clashed, metal against fire. The Coalition had learned from Vornis 9. They didn't attack cities. They attacked the machines. Human shipyards fell. Power grids overloaded. Communication lines went dark. But then the aliens made one mistake. They assumed the humans would hesitate. In orbit, Admiral Hale stood calm amidst the chaos. "Activate the countermeasure," he ordered. The AI responded, confirming Project Hammerfall authorization. The Titanfall systems lit up, one by one. Deep within its core, something massive began to awaken, a new weapon, even more terrifying than the railgun. It was called the Helios Array. A solar-powered kinetic cannon capable of bending orbital trajectories, turning debris and asteroids into guided bullets. Captain Voss looked uneasy. "Sir, the array's never been tested." Hale's voice was steady. "It will be tonight." On the alien flagship Sovereign Claw, Commander Sathkel watched as the Titanfall powered up. His eyes widened. "What are they doing?" One of his officers screamed, "Their ship is locking on us." Before Sathkel could respond, a streak of light crossed the void. A small asteroid, glowing with plasma, slammed into the Sovereign Claw's hull. The explosion vaporized it instantly. Aboard the Titanfall, the crew felt the vibration of victory. But Hale didn't smile. He just gave the next order. "Target their fleet. All of it." The Helios Array roared to life. From orbit, hundreds of streaks of light shot outward, metal shards, asteroid fragments, rail slugs, each one guided by artificial gravity fields. They rained upon the alien armada like judgment from the stars. Within minutes, the battlefield turned into chaos. Alien ships collided, shields shattered, engines tore apart. The Coalition fleet, so carefully prepared, began to crumble. On the ground, humans watched the night sky light up with streaks of fire, pieces of burning metal falling through the atmosphere. It looked like rain made of stars. But in the command center of Titanfall, alarm screamed. "Sir, multiple energy readings." "Where?" "Behind us." 3 alien cruisers had broken through the chaos. They dived toward Earth, carrying fusion warheads powerful enough to crack continents. Captain Voss turned to Hale. "They're going for the planet itself." Hale hesitated for only a second. Then he pressed the command key. "Divert the array," he ordered. "All power to the secondary cannon. We end this now." The ship trembled as the weapon charged. "Sir," said Voss, her voice shaking. "If we fire at this range, the feedback could tear us apart." Hale didn't blink. "Better us than them." The Helios Array reached full charge. Every human ship around the Titanfall turned their shields outward, forming a defensive barrier, channeling their energy into the flagship. And then, light. A single beam, pure white, split the darkness. It passed through the alien cruisers like a god's spear. When it faded, the sky was quiet again. The alien fleets retreated, those who could still run. Their leaders, broken and terrified, watched from afar as Earth stood untouched, surrounded by the wreckage of their own armada. Sathkel, alive in a shattered escape pod, whispered into the void. "They didn't hesitate. They never will." Back aboard the Titanfall, the bridge was half dark. Fires burned, systems offline. Captain Voss leaned against the railing, exhausted. We did it." Hale stared at the stars, his uniform torn, his face lit by the faint glow of Earth below. "No," he said quietly. "We survived. Again." He turned to the comms officer. "Send this message across all channels." The officer nodded, recording. Hale spoke slowly, his words echoing through every surviving frequency in the galaxy. "To all who can hear this, humanity does not seek war. But if you bring war to us, we will end it. Not with cruelty. Not with hate. but with the certainty that no one attacks the deathworlders twice. Silence followed. No reply came from the stars. Only the echo of humanity's strength, carried through the endless dark. The galaxy had tried to erase them, and failed. And now, every world knew the truth. The deathworlders were not monsters. They were the storm that monsters feared.